Tom Brady surprised people back in 2001 when he led the New England Patriots to a Super Bowl win against the defending champions St. Louis Rams. No one expected the 199th pick to have that level of success after an unforeseeable injury happened to the team starter earlier that season. Some may have called it a fluke, especially when they missed the playoffs the following year. That kind of talk ceased when Tom led the Patriots to back-to-back Super Bowl runs, winning in 2004 against the Carolina Panthers, and then in 2005, winning against the Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb, and the Terrell Owens-led Philadelphia Eagles. He wouldn't be in the GOAT conversations until he won his 4th, 5th, and eventually 6th Super Bowl championship with the Patriots. I'm sure during that period the team had hoped they'd eventually win the Super Bowl again, but one can't say there weren't any doubts with them having to wait 9 years before they would win again after their first 3. They suffered tough losses, and Tom had to take some time away from football in 2008 to recover from an injury. Questions popped up of how Tom would look in his return the next season. Would he perform the same after the time away? Let's just say he didn't miss a beat, making the playoffs in 11 consecutive seasons while winning 3 of 4 Super Bowl appearances in that span. His time in New England proved that a winner will find a way to win no matter the adversity. Whether the criticisms are being too old, recovering from an injury, out of shape, how many losses you've had, it doesn't matter. Playing the game, adapting to the circumstances, and just being in the mix is the key. The Challenge's 29th season was interesting because the twist was the title, Invasion of the Champions. The game started with the 18 underdogs competing for a spot in the Challenge House. As we saw them living in the shelter and competing in various challenges, the show would cut to random moments of 8 challenge champions prepping to enter the game. We saw clips of Johnny, Laurel, Zach, Angelcake, Darrell, Camilla, Carmaria, and CT. It may not have been surprising for most of the fans to see CT back, since it had only been season 27 that we saw him with the demonstration and the heavy hitter twist. CT, on the other hand, sang a different tune. While on the Challenge Mania podcast, he said he considered retirement from the show and wasn't really planning on returning to compete. A major reason why he came back was because he became a father.
I thought I was done. I did everything I had to do, and I really feel like there was nothing else for me to prove. If I hadn't had my son, I wouldn't have been on these shows again.
At the very end of episode 4, the champions were revealed walking out in their cool all-black uniforms. Everything changed from a free-for-all to a 2-team game of underdogs versus the champions. The format of the season is a bit odd in the sense that for each challenge, the 2 teams would compete to earn money for their team bank accounts. The eliminations would alternate, where it would be an underdog elimination day and then a champion elimination day. In the set eliminations, only underdogs could face off against each other, while the same applied to the champions. Eventually, the game would whittle down to 2 champions and 4 underdogs making the final. The champion side was steep in that they had a numbers disadvantage for challenges, and they had to face each other in eliminations. Although they were joining a third of the way through the season, each immunity win would be imperative. When seeing CT in Invasion of the Champions, he looked noticeably different than when we saw him last. He had entered what many decreed was his dad bod era. He was 36 years old, a new father. It is difficult in general to get and maintain abs. Add parenting into the mix, and there's little time in the day to look how he did in his 20s.
I'm walking in this house with a 9 out of 10 dad bod.
In episode 7, Laurel won immunity on the champion side. With immunity came the decision to send any man from the team into the elimination. Laurel chose Zach on the basis of him almost quitting on her in the free agents final. If this season's final had the same format, she didn't want to be in a spot to possibly be partnered with him at any point. Darrell was voted in by the rest of the champions, and he took Zach out. Next champion elimination day, CT won immunity, pitting Johnny against Darrell by default. To be honest, Darrell looked poised and ready for a championship run. He looked stronger than ever, and he was 2-0 against champions. Just one more stood in his way of the final. In the final champion elimination, we had CT versus Darrell in Not So Fast. This was probably the first time CT was ever considered an underdog going into an elimination. Not So Fast tests a player endurance, speed, and brains. There's no question that Darrell got off to a quicker pace, but what CT lacked in speed, he made up for in strategy. He was very meticulous with every movement he made with the rope. Instead of using more of the apparatus, he wanted to concentrate on making a giant knot. He kept the rope as tight as possible and made the most convoluted mess so that Darrell would get topsy-turvy trying to unravel the line.
I want him to be confused and make one giant ball.
TJ blew the horn and the two men looked exhausted, yet they were only halfway through the elimination. In the second phase, Darrell was losing steam as he fought the knot CT elaborately spun. CT had to cover more ground, but had a much easier time with most of the rope laying limp on the metal bars.
CT has made it very difficult for me to unravel this.
CT had pulled off the upset against Darrell, not only winning, but also punching his ticket to the final. He now had to be ready to take on the top underdogs Corey and Nelson. In reality, he only had to worry about Nelson. Corey had a tragic performance, coming in third place each stage of the final. The only time Corey affected CT in any way was in the night 1 time buster. He and Nicole extracted the most milk from coconuts, allowing him to tack on time to either CT or Nelson, and he chose to sabotage CT. CT crossed the finish lines in day 1 and day 2 in first place, technically. I say technically because on day 2 he and Ashley couldn't complete a tightrope walk, resulting in a max time penalty. It was a task Nelson and Nicole were able to accomplish, so even though CT was back first to the shelter on day 2, no one knows the true time or how close they were to each other. Luckily for CT, he and Ashley won the Beats Time Buster Challenge, electing to sabotage Nelson and Nicole with additional time. This could have made all the difference because at the end of day 3, TJ announced that first and second for the men were only separated by 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Crowning CT as the challenge champion.
This one means a lot. That's all I can say. More than just the money.
Years later, Nelson would go on Johnny's podcast recounting a moment in the final he thought production showed favor to help CT.
CT's canoe flipped over. We passed them. They made us all stop. But not only did they make us stop, they put CT in front of us. And I was like, yo, that's not our problem. That wasn't right.
As we can see on day 3, CT and Nicole did flip their kayak. It does seem interesting that they were able to keep their lead despite how close everyone looks in the scenes right before their slip-up. It's upsetting if this actually happened because the lack of transparency with it not being shown in the final edit, along with feeling production helped CT. Nelson on the podcast episode did sound confident that he was ahead in the overall standing at the time despite having to pause his paddling. He mentioned that somehow CT would have made up a good chunk of time in the run to the finish line. And I actually think that's quite possible. The final checkpoint had every player one at a time hold a bar hanging over the water on the side of a speeding boat. When given a signal, they'd let go, swim to shore, then run across the finish line. CT was a strong swimmer. I feel he could have made up whatever time difference on the swim and run, given his time overall would be faster than Nelson's.
I am not the strongest swimmer.
The two were neck and neck the entire final, so any advantage or disadvantage is major. For example, in the same kayaking portion, when Camilla and Nelson gave up their lead by going the wrong way. Regardless of what happened, CT was declared the winner. CT now had 2 titles and a big bag of ice cream money. He was starting the next phase of his challenge career on the right foot. Right after season 29, the challenge released a 6-episode special called Champs vs. Pros. The spinoff featured challenge champions facing off against pro athletes of various sports, like ex-NFL linebacker Sean Merriman, Olympic athletes Lolo Jones, Gus Kenworthy, Louise Hazel, among many others. Much of the challenge audience looks down on the spinoff because the structure was different from the flagship show. The key difference being everyone was playing for their respective charities, they stayed in a hotel, and they had relaxed rules allowing them to have their phones. I find it unfortunate that less emphasis is put on this season because its unique opportunity for some of the best the challenge had to offer at the time were able to square off against active and former pro athletes. The game was a 2-team format with CT viewed as a big asset for the champions team.
CT, 12 challenges, he's got a dad bod.
His size alone helped him muscle to a few good wins. He also displayed his good social game between both the champions and pros side. It can be seen when he was teaching baseball to Luis at the batting cages.
Coach CT is awesome. Hit it hard into the yard.
He could have made the final depending on Camilla's decision. Instead of waiting for her choice, he pushed for Wes to make the final. Over the course of the season, Wes won 3 eliminations against Bananas, Jordan, and Louie, as well as he just came in second place for the champion men's side in that episode's daily challenge.
I mean, let's face it, he's earned it. That means a lot.
Camilla picked Wes, and CT was eliminated right before the final. On the season, he was able to raise $5,000 for his charity. Now, the season may have just been for charity, but the competitive side of CT would have liked to have made it to the end. This would be one of the last times we'd see him be that selfless on the show. The challenge was hitting a major milestone and wanted to go for the stars. This was the season that the show touted a $1 million prize purse. Production did a good job by having a decent balance of newer and older players. They did so well that there were splits in the house between the two factions. Corey led the charge against the likes of Johnny, Derek, and CT.
Corey's coming in hot. I'm coming for those two. I'm coming for Derek.
The line drawn in the sand proved to be a headache for the Young Bucks as they went in early and often. CT had a great season. He did miss the first Purge challenge being held up at Customs. He arrived shortly after and proved once again that no one should underestimate the dad bod, with him winning 4 consecutive challenges to start the season. Overall, he only lost 2 out of the 8 challenges he played in. That's a 75% win rate. He never was in the double cross, and he didn't receive a single vote in the deliberation ceremonies. The only major stumble came in the blackout challenge. It was a 3-team challenge where the team to win would get the power to send 1 man and 1 woman from either of the losing teams directly to the redemption house. The green team, made up of Brittany, Jordan, Kayla, Tony, and Veronica, won. As a team, they chose to send CT and Cara Maria directly to the redemption house. I personally think this is a flawed mechanic of the season. Both Cara Maria and CT had won 5 challenges up to that point. Neither received a vote. Cara was in only 1 double cross. It feels a bit unfair that competitors playing flawlessly could have their games jeopardized in an instant because of a random day's challenge. By episode 15, the redemption house was buzzing with CT, Jordan, Bananas, Leroy, and Dario, all vying for 2 spots to get back into the game. Luckily, CT won the redemption challenge along with Jordan, a person who pushed for him to be voted into the redemption house in the first place. Cara Maria also won the redemption game on the women's side. In the very next challenge, X marks the spot, CT won with his partner Cara Maria to lock in their spots in the final. He was making his 2nd straight final in the flagship show.
Win this, I can ride off into the sunset and live happily ever after.
The Dirty 30 final was hard. It was extremely hot and focused more on running/endurance. CT finished 1 stage in first, stage 3. He and Camilla finished the puzzle before the other 2 pairs. He also was able to add on to Jordan's time in a mini double cross section, but it wasn't enough, as CT finished 2 stages in second and the rest in third. He really lagged behind in the final run of the game as well. His performance resulted in a 3rd place finish and him pocketing $15,000. Even with him not winning, 3rd place is still impressive given the level of competition on the season and how rough the final was in some spots. CT would not be back for Season 31 Vendettas, but would compete in both Champs vs. Stars seasons.
There he is, Mr. Dad Bod.
I know I mentioned how I didn't like the fans overlooking Champs vs. Pros. Well, I can totally understand how and why they would not take the Champs vs. Stars series seriously. Let's start with the challenge side of things. They really loosened the definition of what is a champ. Not saying I don't appreciate Anissa, Corey, Devin, Jenna, Kayla, or Tori being on these seasons, but at the same time, equally, you can scrutinize some of the choices for the stars like Riff Raff, Matt Rife, and Hennessy. I think these seasons have some good moments, mainly in Season 2, but the competition lacked quite a bit compared to the Champs vs. Pros and definitely the flagship. The main moment I have to talk about in the Champs vs. Stars Season 1 is CT vs. TO. By episode 2, the champs were in a rocky spot given they lost 2 players by disqualification, with news that Ashley may also have to leave the game early due to a family emergency. CT voiced concerns about the situation during a deliberation meeting. Behind his back, Terrell Owens ran his fingers down his face, signaling that the champs were being crybabies. It's funny because even with some unexpected exits, the champs team still won every single challenge against the Stars. CT wanting to have fair odds was the only chance Terrell Owens could have possibly found time to trash talk since his team didn't pose a threat in the competition. CT felt disrespected, and rightfully so, and he called out Terrell Owens saying he's only doing the show because he spent all his NFL money.
I didn't ask to be here. Whoa, I didn't burn $70 million.
T.O. quit. He walked out disappointed like he did in the 2005 Super Bowl, being handed an L by another Boston player. As stated, the champs won every competition. They only lost 2 players from eliminations. In the end, only 3 champs and 3 stars could make the final. Bananas, CT, and Emily were the champ representatives, facing off against the 3 stars left. The challenge champions won, and really there was no way that trio was going to lose against a bachelorette contestant and a wild and out comedian.
Feels great to win all this money for my charity fight.
Champs vs Stars 2 was a bit more competitive, with the challenge scrambling up the teams to mix in stars with the champs rather than the 2 playing head to head. Mixed Luis and Casper masterminding a Stars alliance to explicitly throw in champs as much as possible kept the challengers on their toes. Nothing on the season really affected CT as he was never in any real danger. His red team won twice. Midway through, the game turned from teams to pairs. CT was partnered up with Tony Raines. Collectively, they made up the team Dad Bod.
CT and Tony. Team Dad Bod.
The remaining time went well for Team Dad Bod. CT and Tony escaped the purge in episode 8 and won the textile challenge to be locked into the endgame. But the biggest test had yet to come, the final. It didn't start off well with the rain, a lot of running, and CT's back going out.
But son, my back is just really starting to tighten up. It feels like it's burning. Stupidest thing that'll cause you to pull your back.
But the 2 stayed competitive, kept pushing, and the big equalizer of the final was the eating stage. CT and Tony are the best eaters in all of the challenge's history. They have displayed this talent numerous times on the show. They arrived at the eating stage last. They were left with limited options, but that wasn't a problem for them. It actually worked out better because they didn't waste time making decisions on what to eat. They just grabbed the food and ate it. They even did a little cooking show in the middle of the final.
Some breadcrumbs on top of that.
All the teams were neck and neck going into the final stage, which was a giant slide puzzle that CT solved quite easily. Team Dad Bod took home the title in Champs vs Stars 2. Tony won over $57,000 for his charity, while CT nearly won $53,000 for his. So far, since his return and including the spin-offs, CT made the final in 4 out of 5 seasons, winning 3 out of the 4. He must have thought that if he could keep this momentum up and kept making finals, that he was bound to get another flagship win. CT was back for his 3rd season of 2018, Final Reckoning, a Rivals type season with him being paired up with
Veronica.
This rivalry stemmed from their time on season 30. CT claimed Veronica was weak when voting her into an elimination.
Right now I'm thinking Veronica's probably the weakest.
All for Veronica to be on the winning team for the Blackout Challenge, giving her the ability to help vote CT to the Redemption House. From his confessionals, it sounded like CT didn't have much faith in their ability to win, but I feel both had great social games to make a deep run.
Me and Veronica are gonna have to perform. In the end, we're team layup.
The problem is that throughout the season, certain challenges would purge the worst performing pairs, and in episode 5, he and Veronica did the worst in the Shark Bait Challenge, sending them to the Redemption House.
What did I do to deserve this? Because I voted her in and called her weak?
CT was frustrated because he's done well in recent seasons, but it wasn't just him this time. He needed Veronica to want to win, and he felt like she wasn't taking this seriously.
You do take serious, right?
Yes.
CT was away from his son and didn't want to feel like he was wasting his time. The 2 stayed in the Redemption House until episode 10 when they weren't chosen to play in the Redemption game.
Veronica wasn't all that bad, but don't tell her I said that.
Just when they were starting to get along, they were eliminated from the season. Right after season 32 wrapped in December of 2018, MTV put a 2-episode special called CT's Getting Married. The fans were granted access to CT we rarely got to see, a personal side to the Boston Brawler. We were introduced to Lily, CT's fiance. We heard how they met.
He used to go to work every day.
Like she knew I'd been checking her out.
And saw them as they planned their wedding. Much of the challenge audience appreciated getting to see a new perspective of him, but also some were concerned by some things they saw. Like how Lily looked visibly disgusted when some cast members showed up to the wedding. CT essentially grew up with these people and were good friends with who attended, yet Lily treated them as burdens rather than his friends.
Officially, you have to say hi. I see you. Oh, in LA. I think she misunderstood me for Kayla.
During my first viewing, I chalked it up to the wedding being stressful. Maybe it was uneasy meeting so many new people in that setting. At the same time though, the challenge is a significant part of CT's life. You'd think she'd be accepting of that side of him and the people he chose to invite to this special occasion. I will say that they were really loud the night before the ceremony, so I can understand her being mad there. The major point of concern for everyone was that CT's father refused to attend. Going back to his time on The Real World, CT was always close with his family. His father especially was someone he said was his best friend. It had to be a lot to go through getting ready for this life-changing moment and not knowing if his father would show up. When planning a wedding, no one is hoping it'll end in divorce, so at that time he thought a person he loved and admired so much was missing his special day. CT's mom made the trip, but not his father. CT held out hope that his father would surprise him by coming in at the last minute.
Is he gonna surprise me and you guys aren't telling me? Is that what it is?
I don't think he's going to be surprising you.
But it didn't happen. His sister Vanessa originally wasn't going to come to the wedding since she and Lily had problems. Vanessa surprised everyone the day of to be there for her brother, even if she still had reservations about his and Lily's relationship. It wasn't ideal to get married with all this tension, but in the end, they tied the knot, combining his new family of Lily and CJ with his MTV family. Hot off his wedding, CT was back to compete in the 33rd season of the challenge. This is kind of a unique entrance in the series in that it was like a fresh meat season with half the cast making their The Challenge debuts. The thing is, everyone had previously been featured on another reality show like Big Brother, American Ninja Warrior, Floribama Shore, X on the Beach, and more. In episode 1, the challenge had everyone play in a preliminary challenge called Impending Dune. They had the players retrieve a ball falling down a giant dune, exchange the ball for puzzle pieces, then complete the puzzle at your station. CT finished 4th overall in the men's heat behind Paulie, Ashley Kane, and Johnny Bananas. In the draft, he was picked 7th overall by Julia Nolan. This season was the first time CT's reputation got him sent into an elimination. In episode 4, Kyle and Maddie were voted by the tribunal. They called out JP and Natalie. TJ threw a curveball by telling JP and Natalie, choose a third pair to call down. JP heard the legendary stories of CT and wanted to face him.
CT and Julia.
This was a weird elimination as it was the only individual 3-way elimination in which the winning man and winning woman would make a possible new pair. Kyle pulled off the upset, winning in the ring toss elimination by prying away 2 rings from both men. CT was so annoyed he was eliminated early, and he'd make sure it wouldn't happen in the next season. On August 9, 2019, it was announced that the challenge would be back for its 34th season, a direct sequel to season 33 entitled War of the Worlds 2. Reports mentioned that it would be a 2-team format featuring the USA versus UK. Looking at the group photo, it can be clearly seen that 4 players were wearing different uniforms than either team. One of those players was CT. According to both People.com and Entertainment Weekly, CT would be lumped into the reinforcement role along with D, Ninja, and Turbo. It's an interesting concept as I understand why Turbo and D would be in the role given they aren't from either the US or the UK. But CT and Ninja were both from the United States. It just seemed a bit random. No one knew what the reinforcement role entailed until episode 1, when the two teams played their first challenge called Trench Warfare. The rules were that whichever team won, they would get first pick of which replacements to add onto their team, one man and one woman. After Team USA won, there was a big discussion.
Ninja and CT?
I want CT. I don't care if he's not as
He was cheering for USA.
Many felt it was a no-brainer to pick CT. He's from the USA, he had a lot of friends on the team, and everyone knew what he was capable of in the challenges. Other players had different opinions.
What do you think on guys?
Turbo. Yeah, he's in shape.
We're not picking CT.
I'm sure it was confusing and a bit awkward for CT, thinking he'd be an easy pick for the USA team. Instead, they went with Turbo. Fans were upset by the way CT was talked about and treated by the USA team. It clearly got to him as he unleashed some of his frustrations out on Josh when everyone moved into the challenge house.
CT's already a bit wound up because he wanted to be on the American side and they picked Turbo instead.
Really being a part of the UK team was a gift and a curse. A curse in the sense that they'd barely win challenges over the course of the season. I mean, it's hard to win when you have teammates who don't even know how many seconds are in 5 minutes.
How many seconds are in 5 minutes?
56.
In the first 10 episodes, the UK team won only 2 challenges. It was almost impressive the way they would lose challenges. Like in the one challenge when they thought they won, but then were disqualified for yanking locks off instead of actually undoing them.
We cheated and we got caught.
The only good thing about Team UK losing was that CT was so insulated by Team USA that when they were in power, he never had to worry about being picked. He just had to make sure he wasn't the UK vote. Getting into the numbers, we should move on to the gift portion of why CT should have been happy being on Team UK. In Season 34, Paulie and Cara were making a big alliance of players. CT was a big part, acting as a bridge between the two teams. He got close with the Team UK besties, Joss and Rogan. Cara's cult, as it was deemed, became official when Cam joined the squad. She locked in Kaylee, who had quite a bit of sway on the UK team as well. CT being on the opposition allowed him to stay out of the turmoil that plagued Team USA. The first instance came with Laurel and Josh making the first move voting in West when their team was in power. The USA team was always going to turn on each other, but one side laid in wait for the other side to strike first. USA's morale took a nosedive when Laurel and Johnny sabotaged the team in episode 4. Hoping to take another chunk out of Paulie's numbers. The plan went awry with the infamous Ninja vs. Laurel elimination. Anger, pride, and ego were on full display. TJ blew the horn and claimed Laurel was the winner too soon. After further review of the tapes, Laurel was eliminated by putting the limb in the wrong hole and was sent home.
Honestly, it's a really bad call.
Episode 5, another major development happened when Paulie and Cara voted in Johnny Bananas to face Theo. Theo tried to make his case of wanting to go against CT, but that would never happen with Paulie and Cara in the tribunal.
Put me against your choice, either CT, I don't think he deserves to go to the final.
Laurel and Bananas gone one after another made Paulie and Cara's grip on the game stronger and stronger. Everyone outside of Jordan, Tori, Georgia, Jenny, Kyle, and Theo fell in line. It became more predictable as the weeks went on. If anyone was associated with one of the players I just mentioned, they were sent in against them. Nicole, Georgia's best friend, lost against Jenny. Bear, who was close with Laurel and Georgia, lost to Joss. Esther was on the fence, so she was an easy vote to send in against Georgia. Kyle lost to Theo. Idris was collateral damage against Theo. Team UK finally won a challenge in episode 10, allowing Team USA to vote in Tori. Then Joss and Kaylee pulled a Paulie and Cara by voting in Georgia from their own team. Jordan then took out Theo in episode 11. He used the turncoat twist to join the UK side and be with his fiancée Tori, who also turncoat. Just because they swapped teams didn't stop them from being sent into the elimination, all while CT and the rest of Cara's cult sat pretty. CT kept relatively quiet and under the radar until episode 12's escape to freedom. It was an obstacle course being dragged by a boat. Each team would have 6 total representatives, 3 men and 3 women. The team that can get the most players to the end of the course, the quickest, would win. CT was up first for the UK men's round, and he threw it. He hung out with Zach the entire time. They did little skits and played rock, paper, scissors. Everyone knew where CT sat in the game strategically, but here he is showing the lengths he's willing to go for his alliance even if it comes at the detriment of his own team. The only real lost cause Colt took numbers-wise was when Joss and Kaylee were purged by being the slowest swimmers in the Puzzling Swim Challenge.
You get purged out like usual.
It was getting late in the game and the players felt that the final was right around the corner, so much so that some were itching to make some moves. After the UK team won in episode 14, CT was named the speaker for the first time all season. And it wasn't even that he was named, he wanted the power. It was as if a hibernating bear woke up at the end of winter. He took charge by naming Rogan and Tori to be in the tribunal with him. They now had to vote someone into the final elimination, and by a vote of 2-1, Ashley was sent in against Nani.
I'm gonna go with Ninja.
Tori!
Ashley.
If there were 1 or 2 more challenges left in the game, maybe there would have been problems for CT, or at least he would have had to done like damage control to keep him out of an elimination. But he didn't have to worry about it because
The rest of you guys, I'll see you at the final.
CT waited to make his move. He worked on self-preservation until the right moment. His team may have been smaller, but going back to season 10 and season 15, sometimes bigger doesn't mean better. And that was exactly the case in season 34's final. The only time Team USA was ahead of Team UK was in the very beginning when Paulie was trying to block them from passing. CT's competitive side took over and we got to see the CT choo-choo once more. Team USA struggled at every step of the final with a broken gurney, panicking at the checkpoints, breaking down physically and team-wise. Eventually, Team UK had to serve a time penalty for breaking Team USA's gurney. But it didn't make a difference as they finished part 1 of the final way ahead. Day 2 saw a purge in the beginning, with CT, Jordan, Rogan, and D making the final 4 spots of Team UK. They worked together well enough to keep their head start in the chain run, time out at the puzzle first, and float their way to victory to the yacht. In a way, it feels kinda reminiscent of the Rivals 2 finale.
Just won $1 million!
CT was now a 3-time challenge champion. It's tough not to think of what people said about CT in episode 1 when choosing reinforcements. They underestimated him. They only thought about his recent season runs in 32 and 33 and judged him for his appearance. Some may have seen him as a mere pawn in a bigger alliance, that he would play their game above his own. But that's the brilliance of CT's social game. He'd be a team player until he felt his own game was on the line in some way. In an interview with the Challenge Fandom podcast, CT mentioned how proud he was of the game he played on season 34.
I'll tell you what though, when we did War of the Worlds, and I wish they had shown it, I was really proud of the way I played that game on the UK side. I did a really good job of trying not to be on the bottom of somebody's alliance. Honestly, didn't really feel like I had anything to worry about from, Kara and Paulie's side.
CT was right back on the challenge to defend his crown. Total Madness was a challenging season for the players mentally. They were in a cold environment living in a bunker. No one liked it, especially CT.
What was the one? It was just really cold and we were in a bunker. That place had me miserable.
Oh, Total Madness.
I did not want to be there.
In episode 3, CT won in the Decode and Detonate challenge. Bailey was the other winner, and they agreed to add Swaggy C into the tribunal. Under one condition, that CT would get to throw himself into that episode's elimination. Total Madness featured the Red Skull Twist, a game format that forced players to win an elimination to be eligible to run TJ's final. This was against CT's main plan of avoiding eliminations. Since his return in season 29, he had only been in 2 eliminations and 1 redemption game. And that's including the Champs vs. Spin-offs. His motto in the Bod Era was you make 100% of the finals when you see 0% of the eliminations. However, his whole strategy needed to change. CT believed that he was in good social standings with players. He just needed to lock in his skull. Once he gets his skull, he could coast. The Rookie J was voted in and CT sent himself down to play Take Shelter, an elimination that looked like a variant of Not So Fast. If there's one thing CT knew, it was how to make a knot. In the pre-elimination confessional, it seemed as though he was counting his skull before even playing. But it was the underdog Jay who shocked everyone when he was able to open the door and press his button seconds before CT made it through his door.
Yeah, this was one of my dreams.
He'll make sure, bro.
This early departure stung, and you can hear it in CT's final confessional.
I have no one to blame but myself. If I want to continue to compete at a high level, I need to give myself a tune-up.
The dad bod era for CT was one of the most successful times of his The Challenge career. But it also held some of the most early exits of his career, excluding disqualifications. CT knew his social game was on point, but if there was an opportunity to combine the younger CT bod with the maturity of his great social game, some may consider him unbeatable if he could pull that off. Hello, and thank you for watching this part of the CT Docu-Series, Part 4, The Dad Bod Era. If you would like to watch the full version with uncensored scenes as well as way more clips, you can watch the full uncensored version over on my Patreon at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Over at my Patreon, not only can you see Part 4 in my full vision, but you can also watch the full unedited versions of Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, as well as Part 5. That's right, the 5th and final part of the CT docuseries is on Patreon right now. Patreon.com/angelcakevids, available to the $3 and $5 tier patrons. And when you sign up for my Patreon at either the $3 or $5 tier, you will not only get access to the full CT docuseries, but also so much more content, like interviews, exclusive live streams, premium challenge content videos that would not be suitable over here on youtube.com, as well as other reality TV based videos. If you have any questions about the Patreon, please leave them down in the comments section below. I now want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Their names have been showing up in the screen, and without them, this CT docuseries would not be able to happen. So thank you so much to all my Patreons over at patreon.com/angelcakevids, as well as thank you everyone here who is watching this right now. I really appreciate it. So again, if you want to see the full CT docuseries, all 5 parts, uncensored, my full vision, you can go check that out now over at patreon.com/angelcakevids for the $3 and $5 tier patrons. Again, I want to say thank you so much to the patrons, as well as everyone who continues to watch my videos and support the channel. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.